Hey, hi, for those of you who've joined in early, the session is about to begin in a few minutes. You can make yourself comfortable, probably, you could grab a cup of coffee because we are going to have an interesting session today. And yes, like I told you, it's going to start in a few minutes. So before we get into today's session, there's a quick little favor that I'd ask you all early buds. It's nothing more than a quick sound check. If you can hear my audio loud and clear, and if you can see my screen as well clearly, all you gotta do is let me know through the chat. A quick favor, if you can hear my audio loud and clear, and if you can see my video clearly as well, all you gotta do is just drop a message to me on the chat. Wonderful, thank you so much for the confirmation, guys. So yes, we are all set and we'll start off in a few minutes. A very good afternoon, and yes, wishing you all a very happy new year. Thank you so much for having taken the time to have joined me in today's webinar. This is Jay from Manage Engine. So first things first, before we get into today's demonstration, all right? For those of you who want a copy of the video, all you got to do is just drop me a message right now with your email address and I'd have the video emailed to you. Or you can very well drop your email address towards the end of the session and I'd have the email sent over to the email address, all right? And if you have questions coming up during the course of session, do not worry at all. Feel free to shoot your questions right at me. I try and take as many questions as possible during the course of the session. Just in case if I miss out one or two, no worries. I'll take it towards the end of the session. All right. All right. So we are all set. Today's session is on empowering your IT help desk for Active Directory management. So we are going to be talking about bringing Active Directory management to ServiceNow. Like you already noticed, it's going to be about two of industry's most valued technologies or most valuable technologies. The first one being IT services management and the next one being identity access management. So how are we going to synergize both of these technologies? So that is the agenda for the day. All right. Through the session, you'll understand that it's not just about empowering the IT help desk or the administrators. It's about an organizational wide empowerment. It's about empowering every single user who's a part of ServiceNow for Active Directory management, making a request for Active Directory management. So that is the idea. So through the session, you'll be able to understand that the whole of user lifecycle management is going to be simplified end to end, starting from user onboarding to offboarding to user management, password management, all of those key critical tasks or Active Directory tasks that IT help desk and administrators perform day in, day out. We are going to try and simplify all of that. All right. Wonderful. So that being said, what are the top four challenges that any IT help desk faces, especially the ServiceNow administrators when they have to handle AD requests? What are the top four challenges? So here you go. The first and foremost is the one that's common and prevalent across organizations, the clumsy and tedious day-to-day toggles. What am I talking about right here? So it's the start of the year, obvious that you're going to have new employees coming into your organization. Your HR is going to write a mail to you or make a service request for, say, onboarding 15 new joinees, all right? It's a pretty easy task for the HR to just drop you a service request with the user details, just the basic details. But when it comes to actual implementation of the tasks, actually bringing those accounts into provision or creating Active Directory accounts and going still further. So it's not going to just stop with AD accounts. The rate at which organizations are growing, definitely there's going to be a requirement for cloud applications to be provisioned simultaneously. You're going to have an Office 365 license that's got to be assigned to one of those users. There's got to be a Google app account or a G Suite account to be created, Exchange mailboxes to be created, the Skype for Business account set up, and a lot of other things that are an offshoot of the onboarding process. Yes, so that's the ideal scenario, or that's the ideal way organizations work. It's not just AD or Active Directory operating in silos, but it's going to be a series of other onboarding tasks that have to be performed. And for this, it's doing through the native way. You'll have to toggle between multiple applications. So what do I mean when I say toggle? So here we've got the request coming into the ServiceNow portal, and then you get into your Active Directory users in Computers Console to create AD users. You still go further to your Exchange Admin Center to create an Exchange mailbox, and then you get into your cloud applications to provision accounts there as well. So the whole process is not just tedious, but then it's got a lot of loopholes. It's got a lot of sloppiness. Why do I say that? First things first, you can't have all these accounts provisioned simultaneously. So that's a big problem. And the problem is when you go through the native way, you do it through, say, PowerShell. No doubt, PowerShell is definitely one of the most effective ways of doing Active Directory management. But then there are downsides to PowerShell as well when it comes to the complexity that's involved in coding a PowerShell script. This might look, a little simple. It's just the basic attributes for a user. But then if you want to create a user account with all those AD attributes, a fully loaded AD account, you're going to be needing to write a longer PowerShell script. So it requires training. And what if you missed something like this? The whole script is going to be useless. Something's going to terribly go wrong. And the worst part is you're not going to know as to what went wrong because there's no clear cut messaging system or an error message that throws up when something goes wrong. So the point that I'm trying to convey is native tools are out of date. Native tools are a little sloppy. They don't provide you the multitasking ability. They don't get you a single window. That's the big problem. Going further, standardizing naming formats again is going to be quite a challenge. Why do I say that? So organizations are not just going to have, like, say, one or two IT help desk technicians and manage. Say, for example, you're an enterprise with, say, 10 or 15 IT technicians. If that's the case, then having the message conveyed to all of those technicians and ensuring that there's a standard when users are onboarded is going to be a big problem. Likewise, there's always going to be another John joining in the organization. So there are going to be duplicates in the organization, the same username, the same log on name. That could be a big problem. So basically what we are trying to do is we are trying to solve the problem at the very root, at the very beginning. All right. Why too unnecessarily complicated by moving across windows, leading to another big problem, which is inconsistency in the data. So the biggest challenge here is to ensure accuracy. And when it comes to having data transcribed manually, yes, there are chances that something could go wrong, but you know who's going to be blamed all the time. So we do not want you to go through all of that. We want it to be simple and straightforward, and that's the challenge that we'll be answering today. A straightforward, streamlined way to perform Active Directory tasks from within your ServiceNow console. You heard me right, from within your help desk console. So that's what we're going to try and achieve today. And there are two more challenges that I'd want to touch upon. The third challenge is password management. Now, most of you would relate to me the moment I say password management. And why is that? That's because we've just, we are just done with our holiday season. We are back to office, and it's very obvious that a lot of users should have forgotten their passwords already. You must have got a lot of help desk calls for just password reset. And to back that up, we've got statistics that tells that, of 100 calls that are made for the help desk, 30 are for password resets. So that's quite a drastic number. We'd not want to be handling password resets when there are 100 other important things to do. So what do? We want a solution that can help us handle the problem right at the place where it originates, right at the place where we receive the ticket. Okay, so we are going to let you reset passwords then and there when a request is received for password reset. So that's another task that we'll be doing today. And finally, the most favorite one, the last one, is about the security of an organization. What if a user goes all rogue? The first thing that the administrators got to do is to remove the user from all those critical groups. That's the first best practice. If that's the case, you receive a request for a user to be removed from an Active Directory group and you don't act upon it on time, then it's going to be a serious problem. So meeting service level agreements, especially when it comes to removing users or adding users to groups instantaneously is a big challenge, and we'll try and solve that challenge as well. So there are four major challenges that every IT help desk technician or an administrator faces when they're trying to manage Active Directory, and we are trying to solve all of them. All right, so that's the agenda for you. So what do we get basically out of the integration? So we are talking about an Active Directory and ServiceNow integration, and the enabler here is going to be ADManager Plus. All right. So out of this integration, we'll be able to perform those critical Active Directory tasks. We'll start off with user onboarding, which is creation of users, and here mind me, it's going to be a 360-degree onboarding in AD, in Office 365, in Google Apps. So all of that is going to happen simultaneously. We'll talk about resetting passwords for end users, a bit on group membership management, which is adding to a group or removing from a group, and yes, definitely the deprovisioning part, which involves disabling and deleting an account. So it's going to be an overall identity management session through IT services management. So that's the agenda. Yes, it does sound a little bit unbelievable, but then this screenshot right here would get it conveyed straight. So you have a service request for a specific action. Here I have an example of user being added to a group. So what do I have? I've got the request, and I have my form context menu that's got all those required AD tasks that I can choose from here at the group. Simple as that. So that's what we are talking about. It's going to be a straightforward integration. All you got to do is just install a simple plugin and you're good to go. All right, I'm going to walk you through the installation. It's going to be a simple two-step process. So first you'll have to start up with the download. You'll have to get the plugin installed, and then you'll have to set it up. That's all. So let me quickly get to the download page and share with you the download link. So you'll be able to find the ADManager Plus plugin right here. Get into the ServiceNow store. Let's look up for Active Directory. So that's what we intend to do today. So I'm going to go ahead and look for Active Directory. So yes, we are at the ServiceNow store and looking for Active Directory. All right, what do we have? Oh, great. The first application that shows up is ADManager Plus. Getting into it, we've got a detailed description of what this integration is capable of, what are the requirements. You have the release notes to keep track of things, and yes, we are working on a lot of cool features in pipeline. I'll brief you, I'll give you a sneak peek as to what's coming up towards the end of the session. So yes, we've also got the get icon right here, the button right here that can instantly get the application for you. So what I'm going to do is, just to make it simple for you, I'm going to go ahead and quickly share the URL for downloading this app right away. 3, 2, 1, and on your chat right now. So that's going to be the URL that you can use to download this application. It's a simple integration, a two-part integration. The first step is to install the application. Right after that, you got to get into the ServiceNow console. So this is how, after installation, your ADManager plugin is going to pop up. You got to go on and set it up. That's the first step. So from the setup, it's straightforward. All I got to do is just enable the menu, go on, enable the service catalog, just so that my end users can make requests for those AD tasks that we've been talking about. And then it's a straightforward configuration. So you'll have to run the ADManager Plus app in your environment, and you'll have to specify the server where the product is running, or the machine address where the product is running, and the port number. Definitely have the MID server checked. You can quickly log in with the basic admin credentials that you've configured in ADManager. So yes, the first step of the integration is to get this page done right. Basic server port, the server name, login details, and let's check if it's successfully logged in. There you go. So it says login successful. All right, so the first part of the handshake is done. So what's the next? Pretty obvious, you guessed it right, from the ADManager point of view. So ADManager point of view, you'll have to do the integration. You'll be able to find that under the admin tab in ADManager Plus. For those of you who are not sure as to how to get hold of this process or product, no worries at all. Just give me one quick moment. I've got another link that can quickly help you with the download of the ADManager Plus application. All right, just in case you haven't downloaded the product yet, you can go on and make use of this specific link. All right, so you can go on and download the product and get going with the integration. So it's going to be admin, and then it's going to be integrations, and yes, it's going to be ServiceNow. That's the integration that we'll be targeting today. ServiceNow. All right, it's the most easiest step in the process. All you have to do is just get your ServiceNow URL, the location where your product is running, right here, and say test connection. Let's see if it's going through. Wonderful. So the successful connection has been established and it's also been updated. That's good news. So what do I have? Right after the connection is established, what do we see different? The user management portal has opened up. So right under service now under ADManager Plus, we've got the user management popped up. We've got all the basic user management actions listed, the ones that we'll be discussing today: creation, deletion, resetting, unlocking, group membership. All of that is available after integration. So a pretty simple process. Download the application from the ServiceNow store. I've shared the link. Download ADManager Plus. Again, I've shared the link. The integration is straightforward. Have the URL pasted in both the places and say submit. We are good to go. All right. So the background of this integration, what are we trying to do right here? ADManager Plus is going to act as a bridge or a gateway between your ServiceNow and Active Directory. It's going to work based on your LDAP headers. It's going to take inputs that you give in your ServiceNow console, not let you toggle to another window, and instead take all the responsibility and do the weightlifting in the background to get your Active Directory users modified, provisioned, accounts, passwords, reset accounts unlocked, and all of that. All right, we've spoken enough as to how to set this integration up. Now let's see the integration in action. So once you're done with this setup, the service catalog has to be enabled, which is an obvious thing. We've already done that. Once service catalog is enabled, the end user will be able to make requests. All right, so in my organization, Beth is the HR. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and swap to Beth's account to check if I've received. Wonderful. So I have the service catalog right here, and Beth is the HR in my organization, and Beth has a requirement of onboarding users into the organization. So that's the task of the day. So Active Directory Management is the first plugin that you see right here. It comes up after the integration is set up. Getting into Active Directory Management, Beth has access to make requests for all these 8 tasks that are listed right here. So Beth wants to start her day off with user onboarding. Okay, let's do that. Ideally, it's going to be a service request that's sent to the IT department for onboarding. It would be a basic service request, and many a times there are going to be backlogs in user onboarding. No doubt, all of us should have been there at some point in time. But then we are going to be talking about a system that can get rid of that. All right, how is that possible? Beth now has a simple form. Okay, it looks pretty self-explanatory. It asks me for the first name, the last name, the password of the user to be created, the mobile number, the title, and yes, the manager option is also available. Setting the manager for that account is also available. But then there's one interesting thing that's different than usual. It says select a template, and let's look at the templates right now. Okay, I've got templates for different departments. That's pretty evident. I've got a template for the HR, one for sales, one for the IT. I've also got one for the marketing department. So what do these templates basically do, or how did these templates come into picture the first place? After the integration, the product calls in the templates from the ADManager Plus, and in ADManager Plus, you'll be able to configure all these templates that are going to simplify your onboarding. So templates, more or less, like you guessed, are predefined, what do I say? Predefined templates that have data pertaining to a specific requirement. So here, there are templates for different departments. You must have guessed it. These templates should hold attributes pertaining to a specific department that's listed. So that's the idea of using templates, which is pretty much self-explanatory. Here, the one that's selected is a 360-degree user provisioning template. The first challenge that we were talking about, having users provisioned across platform. So this template right here is going to help you address that problem. So let's go on and quickly create a user to see this integration in action. I'm going to go ahead and create Bruce Manor. All right. And the password, I'm going to go ahead and quickly set a password. This is a request that I'm making. The HR, Beth, is making a request. Just some test data right here, mobile number, telephone number, and I'm leaving the title empty for now. I can go on and choose a manager for this specific account. So what do we have? We've got a list of users right here available to be selected, and all these are Active Directory users, and they're fetched straight from my Active Directory thanks to this integration. So there is the entire list right here, so I can go on and choose anybody from the list that I want. I'm just going through so that you understand that the list has been fetched. Every user in the organization is available. So it's going to be Ben, who is let's pick another user. Let's not take Ben. Let's pick another user. So it's going to be Bruce's manager. All right. So I'm going to take Chandra right here and say okay. So what do we have? The HR, Beth, is making a request for onboarding a user by filling out a simple form, the first name, the last name, the basic attributes, and by selecting a template as per her requirement. Here it's a 360 onboarding. I want accounts to be provisioned in Office 365, say Google Apps, Exchange Server, all of that. So I've selected that template, and let's go on and say submit. The request will be sent to the IT help desk. Let's see if the request has been sent successfully, and there you go. So it says my request has been sent to my IT team. So I'm the IT team. I'm swapping back to being the IT team right now, getting back the administrator. The best part about the product is the integration is it lets you assign this specific role of AD management to the technicians that you intend to assign. So you can look up for the AD manager role, and you can have it assigned to the IT technicians who you want or who you choose. All right, so here now I'm going to go ahead and just make use of the default administrator account, for which it's pre-enabled. I'm going to go ahead and look for my incidents to check if I've received this specific request from the HR. I'm going to quickly look up, looking up for incident. So I've got the incidents right there, opening up, and there you go. I've got the request right now. Like a second back, it says create a user in Active Directory. All right, so I'm the administrator. I have to act on it right away. So ideally, after having received this request, okay, if this integration was not in place, I'd have the first name, the last name, maybe a few other details. Then I'll have to go on, talk to the concerned department to figure out what attributes have to be filled out in which way. Say, for example, group membership, or say, for example, the contact details, or say, for example, going further, create accounts across different applications, all right, and have verifications done at every single stage. So that's going to be a time consuming process. So here I've got a request, the integration is in place, and I'm guessing the integration should bring me the form context. It's got my form context right here. I've got a provision to create user right away. So I've received a request from the HR. I have the request details right here, and when I say create users, all right, what's happening? Like magic, all of the data from the request is fetched and filled out. So that way, there's going to be literally no chance for an error to occur. In fact, the manager attribute as well is filled out. So now all I have to do is click on the submit button and see the magic happen. So in the background, what's going to happen is ServiceNow is going to make use of ADManager plugin to talk to Active Directory, specify the request details, have the Active Directory user object created, and also go a step further, have my Office 365 account provisioned, and yes, my Google Apps also created. So yes, it's successful. We're able to see a message that reads The user has been created successful. A G Suite account has been created. Great. An Office 365 user has also been created. Wonderful. And yes, the directory sync will also be completed when the synchronization goes on. How did this all happen? How did this take place in the first place? So now, if that's your question, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through as to what went in the background. It could have ideally taken you nothing less than 30 minutes to have all of these accounts provisioned with all the attributes. But when I get into ADManager Plus and look up for that specific user here, it's going to be Mr. Manner. All right, do we have a Manner? Yes, we've got Bruce Manner, the account that got created just now. So getting into the account, all right, so this simple layout right here gives me insights into the properties of this account. So the container is filled out, my telephone number that I had given in the request is filled out, and in fact, you're able to see that there's a Google application or an account also created. From the accounts tab, I'll be able to see the manager assigned, the domain user has been mapped rightly, the membership is set right. From the contacts tab, I'm able to see that the attribute that I had specified in the start, the user who had selected as manager, is set right. I can also go on to check other tabs, but before I do that, I'd want to reiterate a point. So here we've made use of something called as user creation templates. So under AD management in AD Manager, right after you download from the link that I just sent, you'll be able to find out the product is very easy to install, just a few basic clicks and you'll have the product already in place. Not much on the configuration part, so it's self-explanatory. Just in case you have any doubts, I'll have my email ID shared. You can always reach out to me. All right. So we're talking about user creation templates. The 360-degree user provisioning template is the point of our interest at this moment. So user creation templates. I showed you a list of templates in ServiceNow. The HR was able to pick the templates. So here the entire list is right here. So this is where the templates are created and managed, and ServiceNow picks up all the templates that are listed right here and displays it inside your console for your availability or for your use. All right, the template that we picked was a 360-degree template, and it very clearly says accounts to be provisioned across these platforms. And just like how we saw, an account for Bruce got created across all these platforms. Now, here comes the tricky part. So I'm not going to have just users being provisioned in different platforms. I'm going to have users being provisioned in different departments, in different roles. So does this template solve my requirement? How can this specific template make it all the more easy for me? Yes, okay, so for that, we've got templates for different departments. You can create your own template. I'm going to go ahead and show you one that I've already created. I'm getting into the marketing department template. All right, so here we've got a layout that very much resembles, or so to say, is more like a simplification of your Active Directory user creation console, your Active Directory users and computers console. But then it's neat, simple, straightforward. Here it's marketing department and it says provision users for the marketing department. So that's the description of that specific template right here, users in marketing department. All right, so we've got the description already pre-filled. We've got the organization unit rightly selected. It says marketing department, so that's pre-selected for me in the template. When I get into the accounts tab, I'm able to also see that attributes pertaining to the group membership are filled out right. So the marketing groups are already selected. That saves me a lot of trouble when I'm handling those critical departments. Say, for example, the groups that are supposed to be for top level administrators. So that can be pre-specified and you can never go wrong because you have a tight track on which template has which department or which group assigned. All right. So no security groups can be henceforth wrongly assigned. When you get in the contacts tab for the marketing department, we are able to see the department value filled out. The marketing manager is also rightly mapped. Likewise, you can go on assign exchange mailboxes at the very beginning. You can create your exchange mailboxes. We give you the provision to set mailbox enabled users, create them. When you get into the Skype for Business, you can create link accounts for your users. All right, you can configure all of that. From Office 365, you can assign licenses specific to a department. So the marketing department say they need access to your word processor online, or they need access to any of those Office 365 tools that are available. You can specify the license, the tool, and have all of that managed. And as a matter of fact, the product works on a different level. It's got a tight integration with Office 365. You can go on and explore it. It's available under AD management. Yes, G Suite as well can be managed, and reporting is also available for both Office 365 and Active Directory along with Google Apps. So it's going to be a comprehensive solution. So here we are talking about user creation templates. We just saw how a template for a specific department has all the attributes pre-filled. All right. So the next thing, what am I going to do? Yes, I'm going to go ahead, pretend to be the HR. This time, instead of selecting the 360-degree provisioning template for user provisioning, I'm going to pick the marketing department template to see how things are different. Again, Bet is making a user creation request. All right. So this time it's going to be Peter Marker. So that's going to be my user. And this time the user is going to be for the marketing department. So what do you have to do? You have to select the right template. So Peter Marker is a part of the marketing department. So the HR, when making the request, has selected the marketing department template, the one that I just showed you a while back in AD Manager. You saw how the layout had attributes pertaining to marketing department pre-filled. So the HR is selecting, all that the HR's got to do is just select that, fill out the basic attributes, and hit submit. All right. So has the request been successfully forwarded? That's what we'll have to wait and watch. Yes, it's been successfully forwarded and submitted to the IT team. Switching back to be the IT administrator. All right. Getting into my portal to check if I've received the latest request for onboarding Peter made by Beth. Let's quickly see if I've received the request. So here, this one's the old request. A while back, we had created Bruce, and we are very clearly able to see that the log has also been made. It's been recorded that the user got created, accounts had been created in G Suite, one was created in Office 365. So this gives you a holistic view on what's the case of the ticket, what's the action that's been performed on the Active Directory object. I'll also walk you through to a more in-depth auditing that's available in the product, that's going to help you keep track of all of this, just in case if you're wondering. Getting back to the request that I should have received, yes, I've requested for a new user creation. I've received that. Getting into that request, what do we have? It says create a user with the following details. It says Peter for marketing department. That's all right. It's a simple request made by the HR under like what, 5 seconds. And I'm going to go ahead and click create user. Let's count. So 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go ahead and say submit. That's 4. And that's another 5, 6, 7. So yes, so what's happening in the background is, again, the product is going to talk to Active Directory. It's going to get the user account provisioned. This time it's going to be a little different. That's because the template that we have chosen is the marketing department template. So attributes pertaining to the marketing department should be pre-filled in Peter's account. So that is the intention of the templates being in the first place. And yes, there you go. So we've got the account created for Peter as we were speaking. So the account for Peter has been provisioned. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to believe it right away. I'm going to go ahead and check if Peter's account is all actually created with the right attributes. So getting into my Active Directory Manager Plus. All right. So ADManager Plus lets you do a quick search on any of your Active Directory objects. I'm going to make use of the search that's available right here to search for Mr. Marker. Do I have a marker account created? Yes, I've got marker created. All right. So Getting into the account, the viewer opens up to give me details of Peter. Ha, just as expected, we've got all the attributes filled out. So the description says marketing, the container is filled out. All right, the marketing department OU is selected. From the accounts tab, I'm guessing the group membership should have also been. Yes, we got that right. So the group membership is also mentioned and is in place. From the contacts tab, I'm able to see that the manager attribute is filled out and the department is also filled out. So all of this was possible because we had templates in place, and the HR had to do was just select the template, make the request, and the administrator had to validate the request, get going. So it becomes simpler when you customize these templates as per your requirements. So the example that I showed you is more for your understanding. The product lets you do a lot more when it comes to customization. All right. So that is about the first task for the day, which is having users provisioned. Okay, so let's take up the next task. Okay, so we're done with user provisioning. We just saw how the HR made a request for user onboarding and it got created. The account got created. All right, so the next request that the HR wants to do is say a password reset request, or it could be any of your end users who have access to the Active Directory application. All right, it's a password reset application. So now let's talk about password reset. Again, we're right back after the holiday season. You're going to have a lot of requests flowing in. Here the request is for, let's take, it's for a John. All right, quickly looking up for a John. Do I have a John? Do I have a John? Yes, I've got a John. I'm selecting John. I'm going to go ahead and key in a specific password. So like you can see, your expectation right here would be security. That would be your top priority. So you'd not want anybody to view what the password is as plain text. So is this encrypted? Yes, definitely it is. So the request is being made by a specific user for John. The request is being submitted. And yes, the request has been successfully made. So now it's the duty of the IT team to look into this specific request to check if the request has been received. Let's quickly do that. From my incidents tab, I'll be able to see the latest request for password reset. The beauty of this specific request is when the request was made for that user, the password has also been specified. So it says reset the password. All right, so here when I get into this, what do I have? It says reset password. The password is not visible. It's encrypted. It's not plain text. It's encrypted and therefore definitely secure. All right. Perfect. So once that's done, I'm going to go ahead, get into the reset AD password and say reset AC password. Great. So I've said reset AC AD password. So what do I expect right here? The password is pre-filled. So at no point in time the data even from the request is visible straight as text. So it's encrypted. It's all I have to do is now say submit and John's password is going to be reset. So what do? Do we submit? Before that, there's something that I'll want you to observe. Just in case you want this process to be all the more secure, you can always choose to enable this option which says the user must change the password upon next logon. So the user by mandate is forced to change the password or alter this password that's been reset, just so that you're a little OCD about passwords. You can always do this. All right, you can say submit. Now I'm just going ahead and making a request saying submit, and the user's password should be reset in a moment now. So John Adams' password has been successfully modified, and there you go. So one thing that you'll have to notice is all the communications that happen between the service now, the application, and the Active Directory are definitely going to be secure. That's because it does not happen directly. It's going to go through ADManager Plus that's got different layers of security to ensure that only the right user gets access to Active Directory. As such, Active Directory Manager Plus operates with one single credential. All right, one credential that's got to be mentioned or specified. So you can very well go on and configure the project. When you configure that, you'll be just keying in one administrative account, and all actions that are going to happen through this account. Just in case I had a question right now regarding the security bit of things, with this integration. All right, I'm just taking that question, I'm answering it. So here we're able to see that it's through this specific account. And for those of you who still want more clarity on how you can keep a track of what's happening, the product lets you actually view log data, and in fact it lets you schedule reports that are going to give you a clear insight on who's performed what action on what object at what point in time. So under AD delegation in ADManager Plus, we've got a report called as the audit report, and this audit report is going to give you the exact same information. So here, when I get into the audit report, I'm able to see the list of actions that I just did. So it very clearly says ServiceNow as the source. It says the user object. It gives me the details of the user object on which I've worked. It's giving me the time. And like you can see, the option right here for scheduling reports is also available. So that way, I'm not just able to, empower my organization to perform Active Directory actions for the administrators or the help desk technicians, but also at the same time stay compliant at any given point in time. I'm perfectly compliant because I have access to the data. I have access to what modifications have been made by which specific user for all those critical Active Directory actions. So here I'm able to see John Adams, the account that was successfully modified. The modification was password reset, so it's again encrypted, and yes, it says the password has been modified. And when I get into Peter marker, what do I have? I just created Peter marker and I had used a template. So every attribute that was set, including the description, the organization unit, all of that from the template is listed. So that way, you know at a given point in time as to what object was modified and what was the modification and what was the source. So all of that is tracked, and you can very well, like I told you, schedule reports and have them inboxed to the email ID of your choice. You can set frequencies and have them inboxed, so you are always on top of the system. So you do AD management and auditing at the same time. All right, so I hope that answers your question regarding security. Going further, there are other tasks that can be opted by the HR. Requests can be made. We just saw user onboarding and reset password. So another interesting topic is group membership management. So I have a task right here for removing group membership. So we just had Peter. All right, the user Peter created, and Peter was created into the marketing department. We also got into Peter's account to check Peter's membership, and we saw that Peter had groups pertaining to the marketing department thanks to the template. So I'm selecting Peter again just for our clarity. I'm selecting Peter. The next task is to go on and make a request for removing Peter from that specific group. Peter's been extremely naughty. He's been mischievous. So he's got to be removed from that specific group. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and select the groups from which Peter's got to be removed. All right. So just to make it simple, I'm going to go ahead and look up for the marketing department groups. So there you go. So Peter was a part of these two groups. I'm selecting them and I'm going to say submit. So the moment I hit submit, a request is going to be made to the IT help desk to remove Peter of the two selected groups. I can also always edit these groups, add more groups. I can do that. If Peter's about to be removed from the organization and the management wants all of Peter's group membership to be removed, the option right here that says clear all group membership can very well be checked. But then that's not the case. I'm just going ahead with these two groups and I'm saying submit. The request has been forwarded to my IT team. So swapping back to be the IT team, let's quickly check if I've received the request. And yes, I've received the request which says remove the user right here. So getting into the request, checking for the request details. So it's Peter to be removed from the field marketing and marketing managers group. So the task right here is remove from group, which again is a part of the form context thanks to the integration. Remove from group, I've selected that. So in the background, the product is going to ensure that it speaks to Active Directory. It just removes those groups that are listed right here. So basically all this happens through LDAP querying. The right user is already pre-fetched for me. The groups are also selected just in case if the administrator wants to alter any of that, that again is possible. So the last step is to go and say submit. When I hit submit, Peter is going to be no longer a part of the groups that are listed, which is the field marketing group and the marketing managers group. I've submitted. Let's see what happens. Let's see if Peter is off those two groups. All right, so that's my requirement. I've received the request, and yes, it says successfully modified, which means Peter should be no longer a part of those two groups. Let's not stop ourselves. Let's quickly go on and check if the change has been made. Looking up for Peter. All right, so where's Peter? Yes, Peter. Getting into Peter's account to check if his attributes have been updated in Active Directory. A while back we saw the attributes being filled right here, or being present in terms of the group membership. So from the accounts tab, I'll be able to find out Peter's altered group membership, and there you go. So Peter is no longer a part of those two marketing related groups. That's because the request was raised and it was handled right away. So there are literally going to be no backlogs, and your SLA is also met then and there. So the whole part that's going to be useful is the entire process is documented. You have access to the reports that are going to be triggered from ADManager. You can also very well get back to your request to check what's the status once if the action is performed in Active Directory. That again is updated both success and failure. It got through, it didn't get through, all of that is updated right here in the request. All right. So there you go. So the request very clearly says that the membership has been removed. So this is a holistic approach. So we've got that covered as well. So there are a few more tasks that I'd want you to go on and try as the HR or any other end user. Enable the service catalog and check out all these other actions that are available. We just saw reset password user onboarding. There's one last interesting thing that I'll want you to all understand. So we were talking about onboarding users into different platforms. So when it comes to offboarding, as a matter of fact, offboarding many a times seems to be a lot more challenging, at the same time complex and meticulous when it comes to onboarding. Why do I say that? So when a user gets into the organization, probably there are going to be 5 or 6 applications that are to be provisioned. So the user stays in the organization for 10 years, gets access to different groups, gets access to different accounts, gets different mailboxes created, gets different licenses assigned. So in that instance, you're going to have an extended list of things to do when the user leaves. So deleting a user or deprovisioning a user is not just a one-step process where you just say right click and say delete. It's not that simple. But to simplify that, which is not simple, the integration again is going to come in handy. When you want to delete a specific user, every attribute that is associated with that specific user account gets deleted as well. Yes, it's a little hard. Peter's got to go. We got to let go of Peter. I'm selecting Peter. Peter's account has to be deleted. I'm going to go ahead and say submit right here. The request has been made successfully. All right. So the IT admin has to look into the request to check if the deletion can be given a go. I'm going to quickly look into the request, and before I perform the task of user deletion, there's one thing that I'll want you to know. So here, from the looks of it, it's just going to be deleting the user's Active Directory account. But then there's a lot more to it. In ADManager, when you rightly configure the delete and disable policy, when this specific action is called for, the disable delete policy are going to come in picture. All right. So the disable delete policy are more like a set of triggers that happen when the deletion or disable is done. All right, so here I've got all those tasks that I'd want to do when I delete an account. Delete the home folder, delete the terminal services, delete the mailboxes permanently. I'd want to do that. All right, I'd also want to unassign the licenses for Office 365, delete the account. So all of this from an ROI point of view, it's going to help me keep a tight tab on my licenses. And just in case if any of your task is not covered in the list that we have got, you can also choose to run a script as per your requirement. You can very well make use of the sample scripts that we've got, a series of scripts for the most used scenarios. We've got that. You can also very well build your own script and have that run. You can trigger an action to be happening right after the deletion is set in from your ServiceNow console. So likewise, if you'd want to disable the account and have corresponding actions to be performed on the go right after this request is taken, you can very well configure the disable policy right here. So yes, it's about time. We've got Peter's account right here, and the request was made for deleting Peter's account. So all I have to do is just click on the form context menu right here. From the form context menu, I'll be able to perform the user deletion. So the form context menu lists the tasks, and I can select deletion and get going. All right. So it's pretty simple. All 6 major Active Directory requirements, basic and at the same time major Active Directory requirements. So what are they? Having users provisioned, adding them to specific groups. That's possible. That was possible thanks to templates. You can do it manually as well with the plugin. Then you can update AD users attributes. We changed the password, we reset the password for them. Yes, we did that. And we also went on to see that there's a provision for unlocking accounts. We didn't touch upon that, but you can very well try that yourself. Pretty simple, the same flow. Select the account, perform the task, straightforward. And then yes, finally we saw how to make a request for removing a user from a group immediately. We saw how Peter was no longer a part of the marketing department, and finally we completely deleted Peter's account, no longer a part of the organization. So the whole process end to end, the entire user life cycle is what we want you to help manage. All right, so through the process we saw the integration can get you all this things done, and there's a lot more. Like I told you during the introduction, we are working on a series of other important Active Directory tasks. So to name a few, what's cooking at the AD Labs, we are working on the NTFS file server permission management. All right, so requests can be made for specific files by users, and yes, they're going to be directly made accessible through your ServiceNow console. And to simplify password management to a greater extent, we are also working on password self-service. All right, so after this integration, after this features brought in, your end users no longer need to make requests to your help desk. Instead, reset their own passwords through a series of questions or through a series of security gateways that are going to be enabled from the product. So that's going to simplify the whole bit for it. Just giving you a quick recap on what all we discussed. We saw how to have the integration set up. I've shared with you the URL for downloading the product, the plugin as well. You can very well go on and try that out. We've got the list of features that are going to be available after you integrate right here, all the 8 tasks. And yes, the administrators can perform 360 onboarding, a perfect deprovisioning. End users can make requests for password resets, account unlocks. Your executives, your help desk technicians can, from the form context menu, perform those 80 tasks when the role is assigned. All right. So I'd like to call it the essential toolkit for effective Active Directory management. The presentation deck can be sent over to you if you can just drop me your email ID right now. I'd be more than happy to share the video and the presentation deck. For those of you who want to try out the product, I've shared the link. For those of you who want to make use of the PPT, go on, very well, go through it. You can also download from the links that are available here, right? So what do we basically intend to do? What did we start? Where did we start? We started with empowering the help desk. That was our intention. So what do we get out of this integration? Backlogs for onboarding are going to be dramatically reduced. All right, onboarding is going to be streamlined. Your password management is definitely going to be instantaneous. Resets and account unlocks are going to be instantaneous. Documentation again is done by the product. It's scheduled reports for auditing can be sent straight to your inbox. And yes, definitely a big goodbye to all your legacy tools. No need to swap. One simple stop shop. All right. So that gives you a great tactical advantage to scale your say onboarding or any user management process to an enterprise level. We look forward to hearing from you. We look forward to hear more suggestions for features definitely from you. And yes, go on, reach out to me. I'm available at jay at the rate of manageengine.com. So that's my email ID just in case you want to reach out to me. I'm available right here. Just give me one moment. The last thing that I'm sharing for the day is going to be my email ID. You can always reach out to me if you have any questions. 321 on your chat. So that's going to be my email ID. You can reach out to me for any questions you want, any help with this integration to be set up in your environment. We'd be more than happy to help you out. This is Jay, your presenter for the day. You all have a great day. See you. Tada. Bye bye. I'm available at the chat to take all your questions right now. Thank you. You can leave your email addresses for the presentation and the video. I've got an interesting question right now that talks about termination. Just going ahead and answering the question regarding the date or the series of actions that usually take place for termination. The product actually supports timed termination. Just in case if you're wondering if you want to do a series of tasks as a mandatory requirement on specific days, you can always do that. The product's got an automation module, and the automation module, especially when it comes to deprovisioning users, has a series of tasks that can be performed one after the other. All right, so pre-built are the cleanup processes. Let's quickly get into that specific one. I'm going to show you as to what's available in that process. You can set dates. You can say what task has to be performed when. You can have the schedules set. You can run them at specific intervals. When I get into the policies in ADManager for deprovisioning, I'll be able to still give you more clarity. So deprovisioning policy right here lets you perform a series of tasks. So first I'd want them to be moved to a specific OU. Then I'd want them to be removed of groups. After a specific span of time, say 14 days, I'd want them to be disabled and deleted. So that's the process. So if in case you're wondering if your onboarding can be still streamlined, you can very well always have the automation policies set in ADManager Plus that are going to help you perform your cleanup on your behalf. I hope that answers your question, Cheryl. So what we'd like to request from you is towards the end of the session, there's going to be a form. You can very well leave in your suggestions for features if in case you have a specific requirement for Active Directory management from your IT service management, from your ServiceNow console. You can very well make a request. We'll try and work out a best possible solution. We'll also keep you posted if we could get that specific feature into the product, into this integration. All right. It was a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much once again. See you. You all have a great day. See you. Bye bye.